The Los Angeles Lakers of the 1980s, better known as the Showtime Lakers, were one of the most iconic teams in NBA history, winning 5 titles from 1980 to 1988, led by the likes of Kareem and Magic. At the time, the city of Los Angeles oozed with celebrity and fame, which went hand in hand with the flashy Lakers squad. While most sports fans know about the Showtime Lakers for their on-court successes, they are completely unaware of the horrible truth about that team. The Showtime Lakers were also the most scandalous, lustful, and drug-infested teams in sports history, and the harsh truth needs to be explained. Before we get into the off-the-court drama, let's discuss how the Showtime Lakers built their powerful dynasty. In 1975, the Lakers traded with the Milwaukee Bucks for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the clear-cut best player in the NBA at the time. A year later, Gail Goodrich, an integral piece to the 1972 championship Lakers squad, was traded to the Jazz for their 1979 first-round pick. Why is this important? Well, the Jazz sucked, and that pick turned into Magic Johnson after the Lakers won a coin toss to gain the number 1 draft selection. After adding arguably the best playmaker in NBA history, the Lakers thrived, winning 5 championships in 8 years. Outside of Kareem and Magic, that Lakers team included some other huge pieces like James Worthy, Bob McAdoo, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, AC Green, Michael Thompson, and Jamal Wilkes. Adding to the intrigue that decade, the Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers had the fiercest rivalry in NBA history, as they met in the finals 3 times. The Celtics had solid role players in Danny Ainge and Cedric Maxwell, along with Hall of Famers Dennis Johnson, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and Magic's arch-rival Larry Bird. We all know how incredible those Celtics-Lakers battles were, but as I mentioned at the start, we are here to talk about the disgusting off-the-court story that was overshadowed by their dynasty. To start off, infidelity was a horrible truth about the Showtime Lakers. Former guard Michael Cooper stated that the Lakers were a team full of whores, with star Magic Johnson being the biggest one. With women all over the Lakers because of their success and popularity, many players were caught selfishly cheating on their wives. Many women attended all the games, waited after, and often followed the players to either the Lakers hotel or the Forum Club in Los Angeles. The Forum Club was the worst place for any NBA player to be caught, and the Lakers went there after every single game. For reference, the Forum Club was located in the Forum Arena, where the Lakers played all their home games. Anybody famous in LA, whether they were living there or just visiting, went to the Forum Club to party. While most assume it was women, the most attractive thing about the Forum Club was actually cocaine. Even the waiters served cocaine, just to prove how abundant it was. Coke was all over the NBA in the late 70s and 80s, as players such as Michael Ray Richardson, David Thompson, and Len Bias all had their careers tragically derailed by cocaine. Lines of cocaine were no stranger to the Showtime Lakers, as their high usage was very well documented. One particular incident in 1980 almost derailed the Lakers entirely. NBA Hall of Famer Spencer Haywood was a cocaine addict. One day, he showed up to practice very fatigued and seemed high. Coach Paul Westhead kicked Haywood out of practice and then cut him. Under the influence, Haywood flew out a sketchy friend from Detroit who plotted to cut the brakes on Westhead's car. However, Haywood realized how poor of an idea this was and stopped it at the last second. Luckily for the players, nothing could quickly go viral and spread like today. Only a real snitch could tell people about what really was going on. Unfortunately for the Lakers, there was someone, Mark Landsberger, a role player for the Lakers from 1980 to 1983. His teammates described him as a bit slow, yet well-intentioned. Landsberger told his wife everything, though the backlash wasn't too strong, as most of the players' wives and girlfriends had a suspicion of what was going on. Someone even more aware of these issues was Jerry West, a Lakers advisor who became the general manager in 1982. West knew of what went on and was not pleased at all, but did little to combat it because of the Lakers' success and the fear of ruining their dynasty. Although, he went after one specific player, Norm Nixon. Nixon started alongside Magic and was a fairly efficient scorer. However, he envied Magic for the attention he got and clashed with almost the entire team. Nixon was even followed by private investigators hired by West, who suspected Nixon was doing cocaine. he was eventually traded down the coast to the Clippers in 1983 to take him off their hands. Going back to the issue of women, we have to touch on the involvement of the Lakers' legendary owner, Jerry Buss. At the time, Buss was a middle-aged man who would always be around women who were 30 years younger than him. While that seems utterly disgusting, Buss was generous to these women. He would actually help them financially and even pay for most of their college expenses. Buss also kept in touch with most of them to make sure they were doing fine afterward. Despite all of this, Buss was much better than the previous owner, Jack Kent Cooke. Like Buss, Cooke had plenty of women around him. However, he was not as respectful as Buss. He was believed to be sexist and would often demean women. Some of you may be wondering if there was anyone clean in this organization, and there were actually two main figures who steered clear of the drama and stuck to basketball. Head coach Pat Riley was one of them. Riley was an intense coach. He yelled at players for having their wives at games and held rigorous practices. Riley believed that he was the only reason for the Lakers' success, and that he could do nothing wrong. Often the Lakers would practice on off days, as he believed his players should only focus on basketball. He clashed with about everyone in Lakers management and believed he could do everything himself. Once the Lakers fell to the Phoenix Suns in the second round in 1990, Riley stepped down. The other man who never lost focus from basketball was A.C. Green. A devout Christian, Green never did drugs, drank alcohol, or had sex with multiple women. He was focused solely on two things, religion and basketball. The Lakers even started throwing women at Green to show him how they lived. Women would try to get into his hotel room to the point where he would literally pray at the top of his lungs to get them away. For his entire career, he avoided the demons that plagued the Lakers. He went his entire career without feeling the touch of a woman. Similar to AC, James Worthy was faithful to his wife and avoided drugs and alcohol, unlike his teammates. However, in 1990, Worthy was arrested in Houston for soliciting prostitutes after an escort service that had been seized by the police. While this incident did look bad, Worthy still is not nearly as bad as the other Lakers players. To cap off the story, let's talk about the cold truths behind the two biggest stars on the Showtime Lakers, Kareem and Magic. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was looked at as a quiet man who was often not involved in the media or any drama. Kareem was no druggie and never indulged in the issues with women despite their clear interest in him. He was a quiet guy who was very involved in politics, which remains true to this present day. Despite his quiet persona, Kareem was far from humble, being one of the most arrogant players in the league. Almost all NBA players are arrogant, especially stars, but Kareem always wanted to be the center of attention, even in his twilight. He often clashed with those who didn't admire him and ignored the fans and media. Kareem claims he should have been more open during his career, and that would have prevented him from his image being a bit tarnished. Now for the moment you have all been waiting for, exposing Magic Johnson. To say the least, Magic was the epitome of the Showtime Lakers, on and off the court. Magic was an outstanding player, but his love for basketball could not be matched by his love for women. Role players would often have women be attracted to them. However, once Magic Johnson entered the Forum Club, they stood no chance. When the Lakers went to a hotel, women were already waiting for him. They would give him their numbers and he would call them right after. Even after practice, he would talk to more women who were waiting on him and take them straight to his hotel room. The number of women that Magic Johnson slept with could not be matched. Wilt Chamberlain famously claims he slept with 20,000 women by the time he was 55, but this is nowhere near Magic's amount, as he reportedly slept with up to 5,000 women in a single year. You do the math. Unfortunately for the Lakers, the Showtime era ended in the early 90s. The 1991 Lakers only had a handful of players from the Showtime era, but still won 58 games and made it to the NBA Finals, where they lost to Michael Jordan's Bulls. By the start of the next season, only Magic, Worthy, Green, and Byron Scott remained on the team. However, Magic did not play in that season, as on November 7, 1991, Magic announced he had contracted HIV and would retire. His promiscuous lifestyle had taken its toll and made him leave the game at age 32. Magic's press conference was a fitting end to the Showtime Lakers, the wildest team in NBA history and arguably all of sports. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow all of the attached Phenom platforms for much more basketball content, as well as coverage from every sport in the world from our talented young contributors. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and make sure to leave a like and a comment to show some support for our new channel. Until next time.